A lot of you have asked a question that has confused many people across the world, and that question is, can ear problems, Eustachian tube dysfunction, tinnitus cause panic attacks? And yes, it definitely can. I can tell you firsthand, during my tenure of having ear-related disorders, I had my first ever panic attack, and it was at a location that you wouldn't think it would happen in, a grocery store. So I'm going to get into the reasons of why we have these panic attacks and anxiety disorders when we're dealing with congestion in our ear, imbalance issues, and Eustachian tube dysfunction. But let me tell you a little bit about my story, and then I'll get into some of the reasons of why this happens. So here I am going through the grocery store, pushing my cart along from aisle to aisle. I get into the middle of one aisle, and all of a sudden it was like doom just struck me. I was sitting there trying to figure out why all of a sudden I felt like I was trapped in the store. This is a grocery store that I always go to, so it wasn't like this was a new location for me. And I'm going through there trying to figure out, okay, is something wrong with me? Should I leave the store? Should I go into an emergency room? Should I go into an urgent care facility and seek some help? So I just stand there holding on to my grocery cart, trying to figure out what is going on with my brain. What's happening here? Doom just hit me out of nowhere, and I don't know where it came from. Of course, I had already had Eustachian tube dysfunction issues and ear problems, but all of a sudden now in a grocery store? So after doing constant digging and trying to figure out why this happened and why this happened here, the location really didn't have anything to do with it. It was just the way my mind was triggering thoughts. You know, basically the ear is comprised of three different spaces: the inner ear, the middle ear, and the outer ear. Our ears kind of pop because of the pressure differences between the air pressure in the middle ear and the air pressure on the outside. That's basically how it works. So think of it like this: the inner ear is a small space that already has air in it. Normally the air pressure in the middle ear and the air pressure on the outside are relatively the same. But when the air pressure outside changes, such as when changing altitude, which I was not doing in the grocery store, and the air pressure in the middle ear remains the same, this causes a difference between the two air pressures. So why did this occurrence happen out of nowhere? Why did this happen at a grocery store? And I'm sure many of you are experiencing panic attacks in very, very common locations that you're used to already. Stress. Stress is the biggest reason of why we have these panic attacks. Some of you are going to say, well, that was obvious. But it's not so obvious because we stress all the time. And if you've read enough different articles and watched a lot of different films and videos, you realize that stress is a part of our life and it enhances us in some way. But why did it cause this panic attack? Just about every time we stress, we cause the air pressure to change in our middle ear, which then requires adjusting to the air pressure outside. As the body's overall level of stress increases, so can the ear popping and the pressure symptoms. A lot of you are messaging me and commenting on different posts about why the air pressure and why are my ears popping and crackling. This is all due to the amount of stress that you're going through at this time. It doesn't seem obvious, but every time we have an influx of stress, our ear pressure changes, therefore the pressure on the outside doesn't match, which ultimately gives us that panic sensation or that panic feeling. Many of you educated people are very aware of something called the fight or flight symptoms, and that's a response by the stress and nervous system. When the ear popping and ear pressure symptoms are caused by anxious behavior and the accompanying of stress response changes, calming ourselves down is going to be very essential in getting rid of this condition. As our body recovers from the active stress response, the anxiety symptoms should subside. You don't necessarily have to go through a major life situation or have the worst news delivered to you for this response to occur. It can simply build up over time. And in my particular situation, I was at the grocery store firing off thoughts of when this is going to be over. How long am I going to deal with this? Why is this happening to me? When will I ever be able to go to a grocery store and not think about my ears or think about stress that's over me? And doing this over time is going to build up a negative response, almost similar to muscle memory, to why you have this problem. Is going to give and fire off these symptoms and issues, and then it's going to go into the worst possible state. The most practical and logical way to challenge this type of occurrence of having a panic attack is to challenge it in more of an authoritative manner. Let me further explain. When you feel like you're having a panic attack and you're in the middle of a place that you didn't think it would happen in, challenge it by saying, I'm okay. You have to almost talk to yourself. Like when we talk to ourselves, we build this confidence from within. And if you can do that during the moment of having a panic attack, you actually start to overcome it. It's very understandable during these type of episodes that you feel like you need to seek medical attention, but I would say more cases than not, you are probably okay. It's just your mind taking over your entire body at this time. And although that sounds very dreadful and scary, most of the time you're going to get through just fine. It's finding that connection with your mind and body again is what you're looking for. And that's what I had to develop when I was going through this problem myself. After about the third or fourth panic attack, I realized I'm going to be okay. And I would tell myself that during these episodes, I'm just fine. I'm going to get through it perfectly fine. There's a lot of reasons for Eustachian tube dysfunction. There's a lot of reasons for having ear-related disorders. And yes, it's a quest trying to figure out what is triggering us. But I can tell you right now, 98% of us are having triggers by stress. And although that sounds very broad and very easy to say, it's definitely what's the driving force in our problems. I always describe this type of condition as a revolving door. You developed this condition and it gave you stress and anxiety. Now you have stress and anxiety, so it's giving you this condition even longer. If we can tend to let go of the stress and anxiety and lower some of that cortisol responses, our ear-related disorders are also going to go away. So it's almost like you have to go backwards to come forward, in a sense. And once you do that, you'll start to recover and start to feel the light that shines on you once again. I ask you all to subscribe to my channel so you can get the latest, greatest health and wellness videos, motivation, yoga, and meditation. But before I let you go, I'd like to leave you with one thing. Being well is feeling well. Feeling well is doing well. Doing well is living well. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.